The front door slammed open, jolting me from my peaceful afternoon. I dropped the laundry I'd been folding and rushed to the entryway, my heart pounding. There stood Sam, my husband of 12 years, but he wasn't alone. "Lucy, honey, look who I found." Sam's voice boomed with excitement, a stark contrast to the shock I felt coursing through my body. Behind him stood a man I hadn't seen in over a decade, Ethan, Sam's estranged brother, and beside Ethan was a young girl, no older than 10, clutching a worn-out backpack. "Ethan?" I managed to choke out, my eyes darting between the unexpected guests and my beaming husband. "What's going on?" Sam's grin widened as he ushered them inside. "They needed a place to stay, so I told them they could crash here for a while. Isn't it great?" I forced a smile, my mind racing. "Of course, how unexpected. Welcome, Ethan. And who's this?" The little girl looked up at me with wary eyes. Ethan placed a protective hand on her shoulder. "This is Rose, my daughter. Say hello, Rosie." "Hi," Rose mumbled, barely audible. I knelt down to her level, trying to mask my confusion. "It's nice to meet you, Rose. I'm Lucy, Sam's wife." Just then, our own daughter, Laura, came bounding down the stairs. "Mom, have you seen my—" She stopped short, taking in the scene before her. "Who are they?" Sam clapped his hands together. "Laura, meet your Uncle Ethan and Cousin Rose. They're going to be staying with us for a bit." Laura's eyes widened. "But where will they sleep? We don't have any extra rooms." An awkward silence fell over the group. I stood up, my mind whirling. "Sam, can I talk to you for a moment? In private?" I led him to the kitchen, my fingers digging into his arm. Once we were out of earshot, I hissed, "What were you thinking? You can't just invite people to live with us without discussing it first." Sam's smile faltered. "Come on, Luce. They're family. Ethan's going through a rough patch with the divorce, and they needed help. What was I supposed to do? Turn them away?" "You could have called me first," I said, trying to keep my voice level. "We could have talked about it, made a plan. Where are they going to sleep? What about our routine? Laura's space?" Sam waved his hand dismissively. "We'll figure it out. They can take the guest room for now. It'll be fine, you'll see." I took a deep breath, trying to quell the rising panic in my chest. "Sam, this is a big deal. You can't just make decisions like this without me. We're supposed to be partners." "And we are," he insisted, pulling me into a hug I didn't want. "But sometimes we have to be spontaneous, right? It's only temporary." I pulled away, unconvinced. "How temporary?" Sam shrugged. "A few weeks, maybe a month or two, just until Ethan gets back on his feet." My stomach dropped. A month or two? Our entire lives were about to be upended, and Sam acted like it was no big deal. "Fine," I said, my voice tight, "but we're going to have a longer conversation about this later." We returned to the living room, where Ethan and Rose stood awkwardly, surrounded by their luggage. Laura was eyeing them suspiciously from the stairs. "All right," I said, plastering on a smile. "Let's get you settled in the guest room." "Laura, honey, can you help Rose with her bags?" As we trudged upstairs, the weight of the situation settled on my shoulders. Our perfect little family dynamic was about to change dramatically, and I had a sinking feeling that this was only the beginning of our troubles. That night, as I lay in bed next to a snoring Sam, I couldn't shake the unease that had taken root in my chest. What other surprises did the future hold? And how much more could our family withstand before something had to give? The first week with Ethan and Rose in our house felt like an eternity. Every morning, I'd wake up hoping it had all been a dream, only to hear Ethan's booming laugh echoing through the halls. Our once peaceful home had become a chaotic mess of mismatched schedules and clashing personalities. One afternoon, I was in the kitchen preparing dinner when Laura stormed in, her face flushed with anger. "Mom, I can't take it anymore," she exclaimed, slamming her backpack on the counter. "Rose is driving me crazy," I sighed, putting down the knife I'd been using to chop vegetables. "What happened, sweetie?" "She went through my stuff again, and she broke my favorite necklace, the one Grandma gave me." Laura's voice cracked, tears welling up in her eyes. My heart sank. I pulled her into a hug, feeling her body shake with sobs. "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. We'll talk to Rose and—" "No," Laura pulled away. "I don't want to talk to her. I want her gone. I want our house back." Before I could respond, Sam walked in, Ethan close behind. They were laughing about something, oblivious to the tension in the room. "Hey, what's going on?" Sam asked, his smile fading as he noticed Laura's tears. I opened my mouth to explain, but Laura beat me to it. "Rose broke my necklace, and you don't even care," she shouted, glaring at her father. "Ever since they got here, it's like we don't matter anymore." Sam's face fell. "Laura, that's not true. Of course you matter." Ethan stepped forward, his expression apologetic. I'm sorry about Rose. She's still adjusting to everything. I'll talk to her. No, I interrupted, my patience finally snapping. We'll talk to her. She's living in our house and she needs to respect our rules and our things. Thus Sam shot me a warning look. Lucy, come on. They're going through a tough time. And we're not? I countered, gesturing to Laura. Our daughter is miserable, Sam. Don't you see that? An uncomfortable silence fell over the kitchen. Laura, still sniffling, grabbed her backpack and ran upstairs. Sam and Ethan exchanged glances, clearly unsure of what to do. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. Ethan, I think we need to have a family meeting. All of us, including Rose. We need to set some ground rules if this arrangement is going to work. Ethan nodded slowly. Yeah, okay, that's fair. Sam clapped his brother on the shoulder. See, we'll sort this out. No problem. But as I watched them walk away, chatting easily, a knot formed in my stomach. It felt like Sam was slipping away from us, more concerned with his brother's feelings than his own family's well-being. Later that night, after a tense family meeting that solved nothing, I found myself alone in the laundry room, folding clothes with more force than necessary. The sound of footsteps made me look up. It was Rose, hovering in the doorway. Mrs. Grant, she said softly. Can I talk to you? I nodded, gesturing for her to come in. What is it, Rose? She twisted her hands nervously. I'm really sorry about Laura's necklace. I didn't mean to break it. I miss my mom, and Laura has so many nice things. My anger melted away, replaced by a wave of sympathy. Oh, sweetie, I understand, but you can't just take other people's things without asking. Rose nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. I know. I'm sorry. I'll do better, I promise. I pulled her into a hug, feeling her small body shake with sobs. As I comforted her, a realization hit me. This situation wasn't just hard on us. It was tearing Rose apart too. When I finally made it to bed that night, my mind was racing. How long could we keep this up? Something had to give, and soon. As I drifted off to sleep, one thought kept nagging at me. What if our family was never the same again? I stared at the pile of bills on the kitchen table, my stomach churning. How had things gotten so out of hand? It had been 2 months since Ethan and Rose moved in, and our once stable finances were now in shambles. Sam, I called out, my voice tight with worry. We need to talk about this. He sauntered into the kitchen, now still in his pajamas despite it being nearly noon. What's up, honey? I shoved the bills toward him. This is what's up. We're drowning, Sam. The extra mouths to feed, the higher utility bills, Ethan's temporary loans. We can't keep this up. Sam's brow furrowed as he leafed through the papers. It's not that bad, Lucy. We'll figure it out. How? I demanded. You keep saying that, but I don't see you doing anything about it. We're barely making ends meet, and you're still handing money to Ethan like it grows on trees. As if summoned, Ethan appeared in the doorway. Everything okay in here? I bit back a sharp retort. We're just discussing finances, Ethan. Family business. Oh, he shifted uncomfortably. Listen, I know things have been tight. I've been meaning to talk to you both about that. I think I might have a job lined up. Sam's face lit up. That's great news. See, Lucy? Things are looking up already. I wasn't convinced. What kind of job? Ethan hesitated. Well, it's not exactly official yet, but I've got a lead on this investment opportunity. If it pans out, we could all be sitting pretty. Alarm bells rang in my head. Investment opportunity? Ethan, we can barely afford groceries. We don't have money to invest in anything. That's the beauty of it, Ethan said, his eyes gleaming. We don't need much to start, just a small loan to get things rolling. I turned to Sam, expecting him to shut this down immediately. Instead, he looked intrigued. Tell me more, bro. What kind of returns are we talking about? As Ethan launched into his pitch, I felt the world tilting beneath my feet. This couldn't be happening. I grabbed Sam's arm, pulling him aside. Are you out of your mind? I hissed. We can't afford to gamble with what little money we have left. Sam shrugged me off. Come on, Lucy. Where's your sense of adventure? This could be our ticket to financial freedom. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Our ticket to financial ruin, more like. Sam, please, we need to focus on cutting expenses, not throwing good money after bad. You worry too much, Sam said, patting my cheek patronizingly. I've got this under control. Before I could argue further, Laura burst into the kitchen, her face streaked with tears. Mom, Dad, Rose ruined my science project. It's due tomorrow and now it's destroyed. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. Okay, sweetie, let's go take a look. Maybe we can salvage it. As I followed Laura upstairs, I heard Sam and Ethan resume their excited discussion about the investment opportunity. My heart sank. How had my responsible, level-headed husband turned into this reckless stranger? Later that night, after spending hours helping Laura recreate her project, I lay awake in bed, my mind racing. Sam snored peacefully beside me, oblivious to the storm brewing in my heart. I thought about our dwindling savings, the mounting bills, and the growing distance between us. Something had to give. I couldn't stand by and watch Sam throw away everything we'd worked so hard for. In that moment, I made a decision. If Sam wouldn't listen to reason, I'd have to take matters into my own hands. Tomorrow, I'd call the bank and move half of our savings into a separate account, one that Sam couldn't access. As I finally drifted off to sleep, a mix of guilt and determination washed over me. I never thought I'd have to go behind my husband's back to protect our family's future. But then again, I never thought I'd be in this situation in the first place. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of the battle for our family's survival. I couldn't shake the feeling of dread as I pulled into our driveway. The house loomed before me, no longer the warm sanctuary it once was. Taking a deep breath, I steeled myself for whatever chaos awaited inside. The moment I stepped through the door, I knew something was different. The air crackled with an unsettling energy. Sam's voice drifted from the living room, uncharacteristically serious. "Lucy, can you come in here? We need to talk." My heart raced as I entered the room. Sam sat on the couch, Ethan beside him. Their expressions were a mix of excitement and apprehension that made my stomach churn. "What's going on?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Sam leaned forward, his eyes gleaming. "Lucy, we've made a decision. A big one." I braced myself against the doorframe. "What kind of decision?" "We're going to support Ethan and Rose permanently," Sam announced as if he was sharing wonderful news. "We're family, and family sticks together." The room spun. I gripped the doorframe tighter, struggling to find my voice. "Permanently? Sam, what are you talking about?" Ethan jumped in, his words tumbling out in a rush. "Lucy, I can't thank you enough. You've been so generous already, and I know it's a lot to ask, but—" "Stop," I interrupted, holding up a hand. "Sam, can we talk about this in private?" Sam shook his head. "There's nothing to discuss, honey. It's decided. Ethan and Rose are family, and they need our help." "And what about our family?" I demanded, my voice rising. "What about Laura? What about our plans, our future?" "This is our future now," Sam insisted. "We'll make it work. We always do." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was like Sam had become a stranger, someone I no longer recognized. "And you made this decision without even talking to me? Your wife?" Sam had the decency to look sheepish. "I knew you'd understand. You've always been so supportive." "Supportive?" I echoed, incredulous. "Sam, I've been barely holding it together. Our finances are a mess. Laura is miserable, and now you want to make this permanent?" Ethan stood up, looking uncomfortable. "Maybe I should go." "No," I snapped. "You stay right there. This involves you too." I turned back to Sam, fury and betrayal coursing through me. "How could you do this? How could you make such a huge decision without me?" Sam's expression hardened. "I'm doing what's best for our family, all of our family." "No," I said, my voice breaking. "You're doing what's best for Ethan. What about what's best for me? For Laura?" "Lucy, please," Sam pleaded. "Try to understand. Ethan and Rose need us." I shook my head, tears streaming down my face. "And we don't need you?" "God, Sam, when did we stop mattering to you?" The room fell silent, the weight of my words hanging heavy in the air. Sam looked stunned, as if he'd never considered how his actions were affecting us. "Lucy, he started, but I cut him off. "No, I'm done listening. You've made your choice, Sam. Now I have to make mine." With that, I turned and walked out of the room, ignoring Sam's calls behind me. I climbed the stairs, my mind racing. This wasn't just about Ethan and Rose anymore. This was about Sam choosing them over us, over me. As I reached the top of the stairs, I saw Laura peeking out of her room, her eyes wide with concern. "Mom, what's going on?" I forced a smile, trying to keep my voice steady. "Nothing, sweetie. Everything's fine." But as I met my daughter's gaze, I knew I couldn't keep lying, to her or to myself. Something had to change, and it had to change now. I retreated to our bedroom, closing the door behind me. As I sank onto the bed, a strange calm washed over me. I knew what I had to do. It would be the hardest thing I'd ever done, but I couldn't see any other way out. Tomorrow, I would contact a divorce lawyer. The manila envelope felt heavy in my hands as I stood outside Sam's home office. My heart raced, but my resolve was firm. I'd spent the last week secretly meeting with a divorce lawyer, and now the moment of truth had arrived. I knocked on the door, my knuckles white from gripping the envelope so tightly. "Come in," Sam called out, his voice muffled. I stepped inside, finding Sam hunched over his desk, poring over what looked like financial documents. He glanced up, his face etched with worry lines I'd never noticed before. "Lucy, I'm glad you're here," he said, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "I've been crunching the numbers, and I think I've found a way to make this work, if we tighten our belts a little." "Sam," I interrupted, my voice steadier than I felt. "We need to talk." He finally looked at me properly, noticing the envelope in my hands. "What's that?" I took a deep breath and placed the envelope on his desk. "Divorce papers." The color drained from Sam's face. "What? Lucy, you can't be serious." "I've never been more serious in my life," I replied, fighting to keep my voice from trembling. "This isn't working, Sam. It hasn't been for a while now." Sam stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "Is this about Ethan and Rose?" "Lucy, I told you, we can make it work. We're family." "No, Sam," I said, shaking my head. "This is about us, about how you've consistently put Ethan's needs above mine, above Laura's. It's about how you've made life-altering decisions without even consulting me." "But I thought you understood," Sam pleaded, his eyes wide with disbelief. "I thought you were on board with helping them." I laughed bitterly. "On board? Sam, I've been drowning, and you haven't even noticed. You've been so focused on being Ethan's savior that you've completely neglected your own family." Sam reached for me, but I stepped back. "Lucy, please. We can fix this. We can go to counseling, work things out." I shook my head, feeling a strange mix of sadness and relief. "It's too late for that, Sam. You've made your choice. Now I'm making mine." Just then we heard a commotion from downstairs. Raised voices echoed through the house, followed by the sound of breaking glass. Sam and I exchanged a panicked look before rushing out of the office. We found Ethan and Laura in the living room, surrounded by the shattered remains of what used to be my grandmother's antique vase. Laura was sobbing, while Ethan looked both guilty and defensive. "What happened?" I demanded, rushing to Laura's side. "It was an accident," Ethan stammered. "Rose and I were just horsing around and that vase was Mom's favorite," Laura cried, glaring at Ethan. "You ruin everything." Sam stepped forward, his face a mask of forced calm. "Now, Laura, I'm sure Ethan didn't mean to." "Stop defending him," Laura shouted, her face red with anger. "Why do you always take his side? Don't you care about us at all?" The room fell silent, save for Laura's sobs. I looked at Sam, seeing the shock and hurt on his face. For the first time, it seemed like he was truly seeing the damage his choices had caused. "I think," I said quietly, "that it's time for some changes around here." I turned to Sam, my decision solidified by this latest incident. "I want you to sign the papers, Sam, for all our sakes." Sam's shoulders slumped in defeat. "Lucy, No more excuses," I interrupted. "It's time to face reality. Our marriage is over, and the sooner we accept that, the better it will be for everyone." As I led a still-crying Laura upstairs, I felt a strange mix of sorrow and determination. This wasn't the end I'd envisioned for our family, but sometimes endings were necessary for new beginnings. Tomorrow, I decided, I would start looking for a place for Laura and me to live. It was time to rebuild our lives, away from the chaos that our home had become. The ink was barely dry on the divorce papers when I loaded the last of our suitcases into the car. Laura sat silently in the passenger seat, her eyes red-rimmed from crying. I took one last look at the house that had been our home for over a decade, feeling a mix of grief and relief wash over me. "Ready, sweetie?" I asked, sliding into the driver's seat. Laura nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Yeah, Mom. Let's go." As we pulled out of the driveway, I caught a glimpse of Sam watching us from the living room window. His face was a mask of regret and confusion, but I steeled myself against the pang of sympathy that threatened to weaken my resolve. The drive to my mother Rachel's house was tense and quiet. I kept glancing at Laura, worried about how she was handling all of this. When we finally pulled up to the familiar white picket fence, I felt some of the tension leave my body. Mom was waiting on the porch, her arms outstretched. "Oh, my dears," she said, enveloping us both in a warm hug. "Come inside. I've got hot chocolate waiting." As we settled into Mom's cozy living room, the reality of our situation hit me full force. We were starting over from scratch. The thought was both terrifying and exhilarating. "Lucy," Mom said gently, placing a hand on my knee, "I've set up an appointment with Mr. Jacobson for tomorrow. He's the best divorce lawyer in town." I nodded, grateful for her foresight. "Thanks, Mom. I don't know what I'd do without you." The next morning, I found myself sitting across from Mr. Jacobson, a stern-looking man with kind eyes. "Mrs. Grant," he began, "I've reviewed your case. Given the circumstances, I believe we have a strong position for negotiating the division of assets. I leaned forward, my heart racing. What about the house and Sam's business? Mr. Jacobson's expression turned serious. That's where things get complicated. Your husband's recent financial decisions, particularly those involving his brother, have put a significant strain on your marital assets. We'll need to fight hard to ensure you receive your fair share. As he laid out the potential battles ahead, I felt a mix of anger and determination rising within me. Sam's reckless choices weren't just affecting our marriage anymore. They were threatening Laura's future. There's one more thing, I said, my voice shaking slightly. The land my father left us, it was meant for our dream house, but Mr. Jacobson's eyebrows rose. Ah, yes. I've looked into that. Your father's will had some interesting stipulations. We might be able to use that to our advantage. As I left the lawyer's office, my mind was reeling. The road ahead looked rocky, but for the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of hope. That evening, as Laura and I were helping Mom with dinner, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Sam. We need to talk. It's important. Can we meet tomorrow? I showed the message to Mom, who frowned. Be careful, Lucy. Remember why you left. I nodded, typing out a quick reply, agreeing to meet at a neutral coffee shop. The next day, as I sat waiting for Sam, my nerves were on edge. When he walked in, I was shocked by his appearance. He looked haggard, with dark circles under his eyes and a defeated slump to his shoulders. Lucy, he said, sliding into the seat across from me. I've made a terrible mistake. I steeled myself, determined not to let his apparent distress sway me. Which one, Sam? There have been so many lately. He winced at my tone. All of it. Ethan, he's gone, took Rose and disappeared, and he cleaned out our joint account before he left. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. What? I gasped, my mind racing. How much? Sam's voice was barely audible. Everything. We're broke, Lucy, and the business. I don't know if I can save it. As the implications of his words sank in, I felt a surge of anger and betrayal unlike anything I'd experienced before. This wasn't just about our marriage anymore. Sam's blind devotion to his brother had potentially ruined all of our lives. I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. I can't do this right now, Sam. I need to talk to my lawyer. As I walked out of the coffee shop, leaving a broken Sam behind, I realized that the battle for our future was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. The conference room felt suffocating as I sat across from Sam, Ethan, and their lawyer. My own attorney, Mr. Jacobson, placed a reassuring hand on my arm as we waited for the mediator to begin. The tension in the air was palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife. Let's begin, the mediator said, her voice crisp and professional. We're here to discuss the division of assets in the divorce of Lucy and Sam Grant. I couldn't help but notice how haggard Sam looked, the weight of recent events etched into the lines of his face. Ethan, on the other hand, seemed oddly confident, a slight smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. As we delved into the details of our financial situation, my stomach churned. The extent of the damage Ethan had caused became painfully clear. Our savings were gone, Sam's business was on the brink of collapse, and the future I had once envisioned for Laura and myself seemed to be slipping away. And now, Mr. Jacobson said, his voice cutting through my thoughts, we come to the matter of the land left to Lucy and Sam by Lucy's late father. I sat up straighter, my heart pounding. This was it, the ace up our sleeve. Sam's lawyer leaned forward. That land is jointly owned. We propose an equal division. I'm afraid that won't be possible, Mr. Jacobson interrupted, a hint of triumph in his voice. He pulled out a document from his briefcase. I have here the will of Lucy's father, which stipulates that the land is to be given to Lucy only if she remains married. In the event of a divorce, the land reverts solely to Lucy's ownership. The room fell silent. I watched as the color drained from Sam's face, his eyes widening in disbelief. Ethan's smirk vanished, replaced by a look of panic. That's impossible, Sam sputtered. We were going to build our dream house there. Ethan and I had plans. Plans that didn't include me, I cut in, my voice sharp. Plans you made without even consulting me, Sam. The mediator cleared her throat. If this stipulation in the will is valid, it significantly changes the distribution of assets. Sam's lawyer frantically flipped through his papers. We'll need to verify this. We had no knowledge of such a clause. By all means, Mr. Jacobson said smoothly, sliding a copy of the will across the table. You'll find everything in order. As Sam and his lawyer huddled together, whispering furiously, I caught Ethan's eye. The look he gave me was one of pure venom. In that moment, I realized the true extent of his manipulation. He had been counting on that land, probably planning to exploit it for his own gain. "Lucy," Sam said, his voice breaking. "Please, can we talk about this? That land. It was supposed to be our future." I felt a twinge of sympathy, quickly overshadowed by the memory of all the pain and betrayal of the past months. "It still is my future, Sam, just not ours." The rest of the meeting passed in a blur. As we wrapped up, the reality of what had just transpired hit me. I had won, not just the land, but a chance at a new beginning, free from the chaos Ethan had brought into our lives. As I stood to leave, Ethan suddenly lunged across the table, his face contorted with rage. "You ruined everything," he shouted. Sam grabbed him, holding him back. "Ethan, stop! This is your fault, not Lucy's." I stumbled backward, shocked by the outburst. Mr. Jacobson quickly ushered me out of the room, the sounds of struggle fading behind us. In the hallway, I leaned against the wall, my legs shaking. The adrenaline of the confrontation coursed through my veins, leaving me feeling both exhilarated and terrified. "Are you all right, Mrs. Grant?" Mr. Jacobson asked, concern etched on his face. I took a deep breath, straightening my shoulders. "Yes," I said, surprised to find that I meant it. "I think I'm going to be just fine." As I walked out of the building into the bright sunlight, I felt as though a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. The road ahead would be challenging, but for the first time in months, I felt hope blossoming in my chest. I had fought for myself, for Laura, and for our future, and we had won. 1 year after the divorce, I stood on the porch of our new home, built on the land my father had left me. The morning sun warmed my face as I sipped my coffee, watching Laura tend to her small vegetable garden. The peace of this moment was hard-won, but all the more precious for it. The sound of tires on gravel broke the silence. I tensed, recognizing Sam's car as it pulled up our driveway. He'd been trying to reconnect for months, but I'd kept my distance, focusing on rebuilding our lives. "Mom," Laura called out, her voice tinged with anxiety, "Dad's here." I set down my mug, steeling myself. "It's okay, sweetie, I'll handle this." Sam stepped out of the car, looking better than he had in months. The haunted look in his eyes had faded, replaced by something I couldn't quite read. "Lucy," he said, approaching cautiously. "You look well." I nodded, keeping my voice neutral. "What brings you here, Sam?" He took a deep breath. "I wanted to talk about everything, and to apologize." Laura glanced between us, uncertainty written across her face. I gave her a reassuring smile. "Why don't you go inside and help Grandma with breakfast?" Once Laura was inside, I turned back to Sam. "Let's walk," I suggested, gesturing towards the path that led around the property. As we walked in silence, I couldn't help but remember the dreams we'd once shared for this land. Now those dreams belong to me and Laura alone. "I've been in therapy," Sam finally said, breaking the silence, "trying to understand why I let things get so out of hand with Ethan." I raised an eyebrow, surprised by his candor. "And," he sighed heavily, "I was trying to make up for lost time, I guess, to be the brother I never was when we were younger, but in doing so, I lost sight of what really mattered, you and Laura." His words hung in the air between us. Part of me wanted to soften, to tell him it was okay, but the stronger part, the part that had fought so hard for our new life, held firm. "I appreciate you telling me this, Sam," I said carefully, "but it doesn't change what happened." He nodded, looking pained but resigned. "I know. I needed you to know that I understand now, and that I'm sorry, truly sorry." We reached the edge of the property, where a small stream marked the boundary. I paused, turning to face him fully. "What happened to Ethan?" I asked, realizing I'd been curious despite myself. Sam's face darkened. "He's gone, disappeared again. But this time, I'm not chasing after him. I've learned my lesson." I felt a weight lift from my shoulders, one I hadn't even realized I'd been carrying. "I'm glad to hear that, Sam, for your sake." We stood in silence for a moment, the babbling of the stream filling the air between us. Finally, Sam spoke again, his voice soft. "The house looks beautiful, Lucy. You've done an amazing job." I smiled, feeling a surge of pride. "Thank you. It's been a lot of work, but it's ours. Mine and Laura's." Sam nodded, a hint of sadness in his eyes. "You always were the strong one. I see that now." As we walked back towards the house, I felt a sense of closure settling over me. The anger and bitterness I'd held on to for so long began to dissipate, replaced by a quiet acceptance. "Sam," I said as we reached his car, "I can't promise anything, but maybe we can work on being friends. For Laura's sake." His face lit up with cautious hope. "I'd like that, Lucy. More than you know." As I watched him drive away, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned to find Laura standing there, her eyes questioning. Is everything okay, Mom? I pulled her into a hug, feeling overwhelmed with love and gratitude for this remarkable girl who had weathered so much with me. Yes, sweetheart, I said, my voice thick with emotion. Everything is just fine. We walked back to the house, arm in arm. As we climbed the porch steps, I paused to look back at the land that had become our sanctuary. The path behind us was rocky and filled with unexpected turns, but the road ahead looked bright and full of promise. For the first time in a long while, I felt truly at peace. We had survived the storm, Laura and I, and emerged stronger for it. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I knew we could face them together, in this home we had built with our own hands and hearts. As we stepped inside to join my mother for breakfast, I couldn't help but smile. This wasn't the life I had planned, but it was a good life, a life full of love, strength, and new beginnings. And for that, I was profoundly grateful.